Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolin Media. I am your host, Ross Bolin, and let me just say, first and foremost, I just want to thank God for this opportunity. Without him, I would not be here today, nor would I have the honor of hosting this show. All glory to the man upstairs. Now, unless you're completely detached from reality, which I am well aware many of you are, it has been a while since we've had anything to be excited about as Houston Texans fans. What a drawn-out, excruciating fall from mediocrity we have experienced over the last several years. From Bill O'Brien to Romeo Crennel to David Culley and finally Lovie Smith, that was an absolutely dog shit 4 straight years of football fandom. Closing out last season by winning the last game at the last second to fuck ourselves out of the number 1 pick in the NFL draft was like arsenic icing on a rat poison cake. It was the low point of the low point. There had never, in the history of the franchise, been less interest in the Houston Texans as a football team, less to be happy about as a fan, and less momentum towards something better than there was last season, which could be seen by the amount of empty seats at every single home game. So, to have an offseason that yields legitimate excitement like the one we are currently in the midst of is, frankly, pretty shocking. And it started with the hiring of head coach DeMeco Ryans, former Texans linebacker, arguably anchor of the Bulls on Parade defense that made Texans football extremely watchable for years. DeMeco is a guy the fans and players alike can get behind, who just experienced a ton of success with his defense in San Francisco, where he went from defensive quality control coach in 2017 to inside linebackers coach in 2018 to defensive coordinator in 2021, and now he's our main man in Houston. Maybe, we thought, just maybe, this was a team finally turning the corner by hiring some decent leadership, but we did not trust to hope, knowing it had forsaken these lands. Once our head coach of the future was secured, all eyes turned toward the NFL draft. The Texans held the number 2 pick that should have been the number 1 pick, but Lovie Smith, Davis Mills, and Brandon Cooks fucked us, and the number 12 pick in the first round. Number 2 and number 12, with number 12 coming from the Cleveland Browns when we traded that pervert who watched too many massage fantasy pornos at Clemson. Regardless of missing out on the number 1 spot, which apparently we attempted to trade up into, which is hilarious in its own right, seeing as that we could have simply not won that last fucking game. Regardless, this was enough first-round firepower to potentially inject some positivity into the start of the DeMeco Ryans era if handled correctly. But there was risk with all that potential, as this franchise, which largely failed to put asses in seats last season, as fans have grown weary of the disappointment and embarrassment, we still faced further mutiny if they failed to secure a quarterback in the first round. So there was still a lot at stake. In the weeks leading up to the draft, it seemed to be a pretty sure thing that Alabama quarterback Bryce Young would go to the Carolina Panthers, who traded up to grab the number 1 pick from the Chicago Bears, but nobody really knew what the Texans would do at number 2. And things got even more uncertain when C.J. Stroud, the consensus number 2 quarterback in the draft behind Bryce Young, was painted as a moron because of something called the S2 cognition test. In the days leading up to the draft, largely as a result of the uncertainty now surrounding C.J. Stroud, the most popular theory in play was that the Texans would take the top defensive player on the board at number 2, Alabama linebacker Will Anderson, then pray a quarterback that they're cool with drops to number 12. Well, last night, it was finally time for the NFL draft. And for the first time in a long time, you could feel the potential of potential. And when the time came, the Texans decided to pull the trigger on their quarterback of the future and draft Ohio State's C.J. Stroud at number 2. That was seemingly that. And while I think a lot of people were happy not to stand pat at the QB position, it still felt a little underwhelming knowing we should have had the number 1 pick and potentially Bryce Young instead. But then, just as I was half tuning out to eat dinner and move on with my life until our pick at number 12, the announcement came through. The Texans had traded up to number 3 and would be picking back-to-back. Holy shit, we did something exciting. We did something ballsy. It was almost too good to be true. The first positive moment of Texans fandom since like 2019 or some shit. We fucking did it. We did a thing. I jumped off my couch with my hands in the air as my wife looked on like, oh God, they got him to buy in again. So with the number 3 pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans selected Alabama linebacker Will Anderson. To move up, Houston sent the Arizona Cardinals the number 12 pick that we got from Cleveland and number 33, both of those overall picks in this year's draft in the first round, plus first and third round picks in 2024. The Texans also received pick number 105 in this year's draft as part of the deal. And it should be noted, the Cardinals went on to package that number 12 pick that we sent them to move up to number 6 to select OSU offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr. Now, for all the fans who are saying we gave up too much to make this happen, what the fuck is wrong with you? Just admit there is nothing the team could have done to make you happy last night. And that's fine. But if you're not good with us giving up a pick we got from Cleveland plus our first round pick next year, which is fine because we have another first round pick next year, again, thanks to Cleveland, and a fucking third round pick for the consensus number 1 overall defensive player in the draft and one of the 2 consensus tier 1 QBs in the draft, you're a goddamn goofball. What did you want? If there was ever in the history of the Houston Texans franchise a moment to push all your chips into the middle of the table and bet big, this was it. We got our potential offensive and defensive cornerstones of the next generation of Texans football. What could and should be the most successful generation yet of Texans football? And no, that is not saying much. But are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? We had absolutely fucking nothing going, fam. We needed a quarterback. We got the best available quarterback on the board and one of 2 quarterbacks who was immediately ready for NFL action. We needed someone to anchor D'Amico's defense. We got the number 1 defensive player in the entire fucking draft, according to most experts. If you are not happy, happiness is not an option for you, and that's fine, but just admit it and be quiet so the rest of us can enjoy this rare moment of Texans pride. This franchise and fan base got absolutely fucked in the ass by Deshaun Watson with his sexual perversions and him forcing his way out. Deviant Deshaun and Bill O'Brien set this franchise back years. And last night felt like we made up some ground. And God, it feels good. By the way, it turns out that cognition test that CJ Stroud bombed was not even a question and answer test. Like, there were no questions and answers. It was some type of reaction time judging buttons and lights type situation or some shit. It sounds like bullshit to me. And I have a phenomenal bullshit detector, which I'm sure that test would fail to credit me for. Now, the Texans have 4 quarterbacks on the roster between C.J. Stroud, Davis Mills, Case Keenum, and E.J. Perry. And frankly, I think we cut Davis Mills loose, right? Like, let him have a chance to go be a backup somewhere else. Case Keenum's 2023 contract is guaranteed, so there's no point in cutting him loose. And I don't want the old guy from last year and his shitty ass losing, like, except when we need him to lose, vibes around, poisoning the next generation. No offense, Davis Mills, but you had no offense. No offense. Good luck with the rest of your career. So we got our quarterback of the future in CJ Stroud, who will hopefully be starting next season because I don't see why not. And we got our defensive cornerstone in Will Anderson, and we got our first spark of positivity from our football team in years. I even put on a Texans hoodie to do today's show, even though it's 85 fucking degrees outside. Now, I still feel slightly ashamed wearing it, but way less so than I did even just a few days ago. It's a new day, a new era, a new chance at devastating disappointment with a totally new group of people, and I am here for it. I am back in. I will actually watch our games next season, and that, in and of itself, feels like a win. Today's episode is brought to you by Outlier, the smartest and most efficient way to bet on sports. Browse, analyze, and place picks on any of the major sports books. That's right, all of FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, and BetMGM's available bets in one app. Outliers Prop Finder allows you to research player props like the pros, but in a fraction of the time. Analyze historic hit rates, injuries, insights, matchup details, line movement, public money, and more at a glance. If you're a sports bettor, Outlier gives you all the information you need to make sure you're picking properly. And as a sports bettor myself, I fucking love this app. You can put all your bets into the app and track them in the My Picks section, see the percentage of bets placed on each side of the lines, see where the public money is, and so much more. The ease of throwing a dart, the confidence of a well-researched decision. That's the balance you want, baby. Start your free 7-day trial today and start placing smarter bets. Just go to outlier.bet/bangingthecan to start your free 7-day trial. That's Outlier, outlier.bet/bangingthecan to start your free 7-day trial today. Last thing about the NFL draft before I move on. Fans who attend the NFL draft are some of the most insane human beings currently walking the face of the earth. What an absolute freak show that was and is every single year. Like this year, I had some extra added motivation to tune in with the Texans having 2 picks in the first 12 picks. But typically, I just tune in to see said freak show because it is absolutely absurd every single season. Okay, so next, in what I still half expected to be the biggest Houston sports story of the week before the draft actually occurred, the Houston Rockets have hired their next head coach, Ime Udoka, whose name I know how to pronounce off the bat, which is huge for me and this show. What a week for Houston sports. The Rockets head coaching hire has definitely taken a backseat to the Texans news of yesterday, but look, these two franchises have been on similar trajectories for a few years now, marking inarguably one of the darkest eras of Houston sports, if not for our beloved Astros winning another World Series. And the Rockets desperately needed something positive to happen, just as the Texans did. Ime Udoka is just that. He is what the doctor ordered. Almost a year ago, Udoka led the Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals and was largely considered to be one of the best coaches in basketball. But then he was suspended and eventually dismissed altogether by the Celtics because he had a relationship with a female staffer. #horny problems, which we are very familiar with here in the H. Now, normally I would say, we're all human beings. We make mistakes, and I don't see how that affair would impact his ability to be a basketball coach. But frankly, because we have had issues with horniness disrupting our sports success here in Houston recently, it is obviously a little concerning that his decision-making was so suspect. I mean, he cheated on Nia Long. Nia Long. Did you not hear Hove? Never go Eric Benet. Never. That being said, people make mistakes. Horny men, most of all. We are idiots. At times, our dicks become our brains, and our brains become powerless to control our dicks. It is sick and sad, but it is also biology. And I'm not making excuses for the man or men in general, but we aren't paying Ime Udoka to stay faithful to his famous fiancée. We're paying him to coach basketball. He served his time. He lost a relationship as a result as well, and now he has a fresh start in Houston. Ime was definitely one of the 2 or 3 best coaches available, probably the most sought after, while also being the most controversial as a result of his Boston infidelity. But now he's our guy. So the Texans got their new head coach and then made a huge splash in the draft. And now the Rockets have their new head coach with the NBA draft lottery coming up on May 16th, where we have the best possible 14% chance of landing the number 1 pick and perceived generational talent, Victor Wembanyama. So things are looking up. We're fucking doing it. Go Rockets. Pray for Victor. Welcome to Ime Udoka. Today's episode is also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs making the most comfortable and versatile shorts, pants, and bathing suits in the entire world. I've been wearing Bird Dogs for several years now. They cannot be beaten. I wear them to sleep. I wear them to do yard work. I wear them every single time I work out. Great workout shorts. I wear them to go swimming. I wear them to do everything. They fit great. They feel great. They look great. They're just great shorts. I would argue the greatest shorts. They even look great on my chicken leg having ass. They're phenomenal. I've got the Art Fart Knockers, the Duffy the Vampire Slayers, the Uncle Bucks, the Teddy Rubskins. They all have funny names, each of the different designs. I just got the Forest Pumps, the Marco Pool Boys, the Zero Dark 30s, and the Tight Wads in my latest box from Bird Dogs yesterday, actually. If you want to look like money while you're working in the yard or swimming or at the gym or the pool this summer, Bird Dogs are the move, friend, and their pants are great for the golf course, the office, or going out to dinner or hitting the bars. Hashtag versatile, but they're also not, like, they look good, but they'll keep you cool. I know it's hot as shit here in Texas. It's humid as fuck in Houston. You need some pants that you can wear out, look good, and not sweat your dick and balls off. That's what Bird Dogs are for. So click on the link in the description below to go to birddogs.com, enter code BTC, as in banging the can, BTC at checkout, and they will throw in a free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. That's birddogs.com, code BTC to make sure you look good all summer long, and you'll get a free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Birddogs.com, code BTC. The last thing I should note about the Rockets, it is rumored, as of just minutes before I started recording actually, that they discussed the possibility of shopping Jalen Green, potentially trading him, with the potential head coaching candidates that they were looking at and talking to before they pulled the trigger on Ime Udoka. And that unconfirmed information has leaked into the press. It is a story now in the NBA that the Rockets are potentially looking at maybe being willing to part ways with Jalen Green based on what else is out there. Now, personally, I do not see it. Obviously, it depends on who is available on the trade market, but look, Jalen Green has shown tremendous offensive talent, and with the proper coach in place, could still end up being a bona fide superstar in the NBA. He has shown flashes of that time and again, not very consistently, but especially in the back half of this season with several 40-plus point offensive performances. He's been not great defensively, obviously, but he's been very solid offensively for the most part. He showed, a kind of a lack of growth at the first half of last season, and that was concerning, but I think he turned it around. I'm not sure why we would walk away from him now. So my guess is it's all smoke and bullshit and testing the waters and rumors, and Jalen Green is a Rocket next season. But you never know with these things. You never know. I like Jalen. I want to see him in a Rockets jersey again next season. I will be upset unless it really, really makes sense if they trade him. I don't understand. Like I'm almost looking at the Ime Udoka hire as like, okay, now the rebuild is really underway. Like, yes, we've gotten a couple of top 3 picks in the past couple of years. We got Jalen, we got Jabari Smith Jr., we got Kevin Porter Jr., we got the future, we got Alperen Şengün. We have all the young pieces as far as talent goes. Now we've got the coach. Now the rebuild can really progress. I don't know why you fucked that up trying to jump too far, too deep into the playoffs too quickly. I think we got at least one more season before something drastic as trading one of our young cornerstone talents needs to happen. Now, that being said, I'm not inside the room with the Rockets. I don't know what it's like in the locker room. I don't know what's going on with the front office. If they have some other reason that they would want to do this, maybe that changes things. And again, it's dependent on who's available on the market, who else is on the trading block, who could we get back for him. But as of right now, I don't see a shape for it, to put it in succession terms. I don't see a shape for us. I don't think that makes sense. I think we keep him, see how we end up in the draft at the very least, right? If we get Victor Wembanyama too, like maybe the argument is, well, that's too many young offensive talents to focus on at once. You got to at least see how the draft goes first. And I would say you give it another season, no matter what happens in the draft, before you get rid of Jalen Green, who we've invested a lot of time and energy into at this point and has shown a lot. Why not see where it goes, at least for one more season? All right, on last week's show, I told you bozos who were hitting the panic button on the Astros to shut the fuck up and enjoy the ride. And guess what? I was unsurprisingly correct in my takes. Since that episode dropped, We have swept the Atlanta Braves by beating them 3 times in 3 days in Atlanta. Then we took the Rays series by beating them 2 out of 3 times in Tampa Bay. So that's 3 series wins in a row against 3 of the better teams in baseball between the Toronto Blue Jays, Atlanta Braves, and Tampa Bay Rays. Have you calmed down yet, you overreacting idiots? The Astros are back to playing consistently impressive baseball with the starting pitching really coming around. Hunter Brown has been showing exceptional growth and maturity, beyond the point that I expected. Had a couple of games where, first inning, he gave up 4 runs, and then he buckled down, was able to make it through the 6th, give us an opportunity for a comeback, and then we pulled it off. Luis Garcia has looked like a Cy Young level starter the last couple of outings. He's been incredible. Hector Neris still hasn't given up a run the whole season, and Framber is back to doing Framber things. So I guess the only negative you could say is now we just need Urquidy to get his shit together and LMJ to return, and then we will be firing on all cylinders as far as the mound goes. Things are looking good with the pitching, though. Altuve's thumb is healing even more quickly than expected, so we are officially back in the rightful first place spot in the division with a 14-11 record as well, tied with the Rangers and a half game in front of the Angels. So we've already made the jump. We were in the 3 spot last time I spoke into this microphone. I said, shut up, calm down, just wait. Everything's going to be fine. Wait till at least the end of April at the earliest before you start freaking out. And now look, we're already in the number 1 spot in the division. We've already jumped over the Angels and the Rangers. We're tied with the Rangers, but we're still technically in front of them because alphabetical order. And we got another huge series this weekend with games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Philadelphia Phillies at home at Minute Maid. And as has been the case for 6 years straight, really, it's a good time to be a Houston Astros fan. And as such, we should be tuning in for and attending as many games as possible as a fan base. Talking our appropriate shit on social media as defending champions while also maintaining some degree of dignity and acting like we've been there before. And resisting the urge to bitch and moan like impotent jerks whenever the team is going through a bit of a hiccup with key players out due to injury. That's just common sense. We're still struggling with it as a fan base. We need to pull it together. Get your shit together. Pull your head from your ass. Rejoin us in reality. This is a very, very good baseball team with extremely high expectations for the remainder of the season that had a slow start like they do every fucking year. And here you go. Here's the evidence. The last 3 series we have won. So Altuve should be back in late May or early June, depending on how things progress. But so far, he's ahead of schedule. It looks like Yordan Alvarez will avoid extended timeout due to discomfort in his neck, so he can continue crushing. Michael Brantley should be back with the team in the next couple weeks as he continues his rehab assignment with the Space Cowboys, which has been going well so far. And Lance McCullers Jr. is on track to return in June as well. That is a lot of star power that is not even a part of the team yet. We just took out 3 series in a row against 3 of the better teams in the game. What the fuck more do you people want? These are all good things. Mazel, mazel. And that will do it for today's show. But remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available in full video on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. For those of you who would rather watch instead of just listen, we appreciate you. And frankly, even if you don't care to watch, I would appreciate you taking the time to subscribe on YouTube so we can continue to grow the show. It helps us out a lot. youtube.com/@bangingthecan. Also, give us 5 stars if you are listening on Spotify. Give us 5 stars and write a little review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're on. We'd appreciate a rating and review from you. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Also, support our sponsors. This week, we had 2. Outlier. Just go to outlier.bet/bangingthecan to start your free 7-day trial and start betting more accurately, more educated, be more on top of things. Outlier. Also, birddogs.com. Code BTC when you check out to get that free Yeti-style tumbler with every single order. Support our sponsors. Check out my media startup, Bolin Media, at bolinmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolin Podcast, wherever you are absorbing Banging the Can. And follow us on TikTok at Banging the Can, as well as on Twitter and Instagram at Banging the Can. You can follow me, Ross Bolin, at WRBolin, WRBOLEN, on Instagram and Twitter. And I will be back soon. Tune in for those Astros games against the Phillies Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. I'll see you next week. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.